All right, happy Aftermath, everybody. What's Aftermath, you ask? That is my own personal favorite holiday. After the chaos of Christmas, New Year's, whatever winter holidays you personally celebrate are over, you pick a day, or maybe more than one day, and do, well, whatever you want, or nothing at all. Buy yourself something, buy someone else something, have a meal, don't have a meal, have a gathering, don't have a gathering. Anything you want, which is why I look forward to it so much. Now, this one comes after a particularly rough end of the year for me, but then at the same time, I feel like I've made a lot of good progress in my training. So I figured, those are two good reasons to treat myself. And SBG got a few things in stock that I've had my eye on. And one of them was this. They call it their Euro number 9 Type 12 arming sword. So I want to give you guys a look at this really quick. I just unboxed it a little while ago, handled it a little bit, so I want to give you my initial impressions, specs, what I immediately like, and maybe a couple of things I don't like so much about it, and I specifically want to compare it to my Ronin Italian arming sword. So let's get to it. Okay, let's start by revisiting the stats on the Ronin Euro number 4 Italian arming sword. I've had it for a while. I've really come to love it, which also inspired me to get a few more Ronin European style swords, and we'll take a look at one today and one another day soon, I promise. But things I liked about this, things I don't like about it, and some general specs revisited. Now, the specs on this one on the website versus what I have in hand are surprisingly different. It's a 30.5-inch blade with a fuller that runs about 2/3 of the length of it, diamond cross section, almost 2 inches wide at the base. Okay. Now you've got this grip, which is very grippy, but I did complain about, this rather pronounced seam, which over time I've managed to smooth out. It doesn't bother me. Actually helps me index the blade somewhat. And then with the fishtail pommel, I really love fishtail pommels, gives me a usable grip length of 7 inches. So I can actually get a second hand on here, use it as a 1.5-hand sword, and yes I do. So that's a nice extra feature. Everything stayed tight, has a great edge, great planes, everything like that. Now, the surprising part of it was the weight of this particular version, because on the website it says it's 3 pounds 1 ounce, but mine's 2 pounds 10. So much lighter, surprisingly light, with a point of balance of 3.75 inches from the guard. Very handy. I'll do a little bit of a comparison of handling here towards the end of the video, and as I said, I promise I'll do a fuller follow-up video on this sword. How does this compare to the Type 12? Well, I expected the 12 to be lighter based on the stats. Well, the stats on the page of the Italian were, well, wrong. And the stats for this one on the SBG page, they were pretty close. So how did that shake out? Why did I think it'd be lighter? Well, you've got a full length, fuller, slightly narrower blade, 1 5/8 wide. Also slightly shorter, about 1 inch. So this is 29.5-inch blade. Now this is not a diamond cross section, not that you can really tell because the fuller eats up almost all of the blade, but yeah, very close to the tip you can see it's not a diamond, it's actually a hex profile. So that gives it a little bit more beef, but it is quite sharp. Let me grab a handy piece of paper here. Yeah, really nice edges all the way down both sides. There's a little bit of blunt down here, but they did a really good job sharpening it. No secondary bevel like the other one. Really nicely done planes. Everything's tight. Now, similar nitpicks. The edges of the rather plain cross guard are pretty sharp, so I have to round those off, and I may wind up rounding off the ends of this. Grip, yeah, still has that. It's very grippy, feels really good in the hand, but yes, it does have that seam, and I've learned, like I said, I've learned how to deal with it. Now, wheel pommel. So I've only got 5 inches of useful grip, makes it a one-handed sword, and that's just fine for an arming sword and what I intend to use it for. Weight, 2 pounds 12 ounces. So it's 2 ounces heavier than the Italian, which is basically what they said it was going to be, with a point of balance at 4 inches, so 1/4 of an inch further forward. So it has more blade presence. It feels very solid in the hand. Like I said, I'll do a quick handling demo here towards the end of the video. I really like how it feels. Everything's tight. Now, when I got that Italian arming sword, the fishtail pommel had been kind of bent to the side during shipping. This came nice and straight, but the wheel, notice it's pretty conical. It's not very flat, but it's a bit misshapen. I think things went a little wrong in the peening. The peen at the end is pretty well smoothed over, but in the process of doing that, they really sort of flattened and mushed that side of the circle, and it continues on to the conical shapes and therefore even affects the roundness of, these central discs. So it makes the disc pommel look, well, lumpy and misshapen, but handmade. If you're looking for something that looks handmade, it's fine. And like I said, it's on straight and everything's tight. I expect this will be a good solid cutter, and we'll see how it handles here in a second. But before I do that, let's take a quick comparison of the scabbards. The good and the bad. Well, first of all, let's revisit the number 4 Italian. Just folded over leather at the throat. So wooden scabbard, leather covered, does have a metal shape. Now it did come with the really bad fake leather hanging system that I got rid of. I stripped it off there really quick, and we'll take a look at it on the other sword here in a second. But I have had trouble with the fit of the scabbard loosening up over time, and I've had to shim it. Not a big job, but just something I had to do to make the fit tight again, and it stayed that way since I put the shim in there. Now, the scabbard on the Type 12 is a significant improvement. Well, here you got this fake leather hanger, and it came with the cheesy belt. I'll probably take these off, but I wanted to show them. On here for a second. But as you can see, you've got a metal throat, yet it has, well, it's a wooden scabbard. The wood does protect the sword from the metal throat, and the result is the fit of the blade to the scabbard. It's really good. Really good. Yeah, that's not shaken loose very easily, but it's not overly tight. It fits snugly, no rattle, draws smoothly. I really like the fit and finish of the scabbard in this case. Now it may not last, may get sloppy, may need to be shimmed, but for now, yeah, I'm actually pretty impressed with the construction. Weight, balance, handling. Well, let's take a look at that. Okay, a couple of apologies up front. This is not going to be terribly spectacular because, well, if you've been following my channel, you know I've only been practicing training HEMA for, well, less than 2 years. I have been transferring some of my skills from other kinds of swordsmanship, and as I mentioned, Chinese Gen does translate very well to a sword of this length, shape, and width. And if you've been following my channel, you also know Mike loves his cut and thrust swords because of probably all the time he spent with the Gen. So yeah, very comfortable, very familiar to me. I also apologize because I can't get outside. We just had a couple of weeks of record snowfall, which kind of shut me in, followed by record heavy rains. So now, well, currently I don't have a backyard. I have a lake, so I can't get outside. Hopefully I'll get some decent weather, or at least a springtime. I didn't get much of a fall this year, so I haven't gotten a chance to go out and do the kind of things I've wanted to do outside. Cutting and other test demonstrations, and being able to move these things around more freely. Now, a sword this length, I can use reasonably well inside without destroying the ceiling and the furniture, but I do have to be quite careful and thoughtful about it. But I've really come to like this Italian arming sword. It's got a good weight for me, it's got a good balance, it moves well, it feels good in the hand. I can get my other hand on it as a second hand or a support hand. And yeah, I just like the way it moves. When I got to cut with it, it cuts very well, thrusts very nicely, has good sense of where the point is. Yeah, it's just very, very responsive. And that's what inspired me to get a couple of more of the Ronin Euro swords. You'll also notice Mike's not wearing his brace. Yeah, this physical therapy, physical training, I've made some progress. I can do a lot with swords now without the brace on all the time, and that is worth celebrating. I may never get back to 100% with that missing tendon, but yeah, what I've managed to accomplish coming up on, well, just about 2 years since I was injured, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with this. Speaking of pleased with, let's take a look at that Type 12, what we're supposed to be talking about today. A little bit shorter, so it allows me to move it just a slight bit more freely inside, but yeah, more blade presence without being overly heavy. Now, when I did my review of that Kingston Type 14, I complained about the forward balance. Now, it is a much lighter sword, 10 ounces lighter, in fact, but I just wasn't comfortable with it, and I think part of that was the balance and part of it was the grip shape. And yes, I will revisit that sword again in a future video. But even though this one's a little bit heavier, balance point just a bit further forward, it just naturally, automatically moves for me. It's got a good sense of blade presence. I can really kind of orient, get that edge alignment in cutting. I can find the tip already in thrusting pretty easily. I can, at least going back to kind of my Gen years, use a little bit of contact with the pommel or the wrist for support, or use it completely unsupported. Yeah, it feels good, solid. Yeah, it's just nice. Now, these currently go for $275 at SBG, Sword Buyer's Guide. Do I think it's worth it? Absolutely. I think this is a great sword, and I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. Like I said, I was also very impressed with the scabbard on this piece. And, well, if you've ever done business at SBG, you know that they often offer a 2-for-1 deal on shipping. So you get bulk shipping, one sword or two. And yeah, spoiler alert for the next video, I did go ahead and get 2 swords from them for the first time. So, to be continued. Until to be continued, let's get our usual conversation going. If you have any questions about these particular swords, if you have any Ronin Katana European style swords, let me know what you think of them, any issues you had with them or things you like about them, or any other cut and thrust swords that you happen to enjoy or have had bad experiences with, and we'll get that conversation going as well. But as usual, until next time, thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, and I hope to see you back for, well, this one's next.